In the pre-dawn hours of October 2022, residents of Kiev awoke to an unfamiliar sound. Not the whistle of artillery or the roar of jet engines, but something else entirely. A low, persistent buzzing that seemed to hang in the air like mechanical insects. These were not traditional weapons of war. They were harbingers of a new age, one where the battlefield extends beyond human sight, where death arrives on wings of aluminum and plastic, guided by satellites orbiting silently above. The concept of the Kamikaze drone, or loitering munition, represents a fundamental shift in military thinking. Unlike conventional weapons that travel in straight lines toward predetermined targets, these devices can wait. They can search. They can decide. The technology emerged from a simple yet profound realization. In modern warfare, the ability to linger over a battlefield, to observe and react, often matters more than raw destructive power. Since 2016, nations from Israel to China have integrated these weapons into their arsenals, each pursuing their own vision of autonomous warfare. But it was in the contested airspace above Ukraine that these weapons would truly come of age, transforming from experimental curiosities into tools that could reshape the strategic balance of entire conflicts. At the center of this transformation stands an unlikely protagonist, the Shahed 136. Born in Iranian workshops, this delta-winged aircraft measures just over 3 meters in length and weighs barely 200 kilograms. Its heart is a 50-horsepower two-stroke engine, a copy of a German design from the 1980s that sounds, according to those who have heard it, remarkably like a moped. The Shahed's creators understood that in modern warfare, visibility often equals vulnerability. They constructed their weapon from non-metallic components, gave it a radar-absorbing shape, and equipped it with a low thermal signature engine. The result was an aircraft that could slip through sophisticated air defense networks like a ghost. But the Shahed 136 would not remain Iranian for long. As the conflict in Ukraine intensified, these drones began appearing in Russian inventory, rebranded as Tehran 2. The transformation was subtle but significant. Iranian GPS guidance systems replaced with Russian GLONASS modules, a small change that reflected deeper geopolitical currents. The reasoning was as practical as it was strategic. GPS signals controlled by American satellites could theoretically be manipulated by the Pentagon. GLONASS, Russia's own constellation, offered independence from Western interference. It was technological sovereignty encoded in silicon and steel. As Tehran 2 drones began striking Ukrainian infrastructure, a parallel drama was unfolding on the waters of the Black Sea. Ukrainian forces had developed their own innovation. Unmanned surface vessels, maritime drones capable of carrying explosives directly to enemy ships. These naval drones represented something unprecedented in maritime warfare. Unlike their airborne cousins, they operated in an environment where traditional air defenses were less effective. The Black Sea Fleet, once a symbol of Russian naval power, found itself increasingly confined to its bases, venturing out only under heavy escort. The Russian response revealed both the promise and limitations of current drone technology. Expensive fighter jets and attack helicopters were pressed into service to hunt individual unmanned boats, a costly and dangerous proposition that highlighted the asymmetric nature of drone warfare. Engineers proposed modifications to existing Tehran drones, creating Tehran M variants specifically designed for maritime targets. These would carry directed fragmentation warheads, mines that could project thousands of metal fragments in focused patterns, designed to penetrate hull plating and disable electronic systems. But effectiveness would depend on something more complex than explosive power: the ability to communicate across vast ocean distances to provide real-time control to human operators who might be hundreds of kilometers away. Military analysts remain divided on the true impact of these developments. Some see drone warfare as revolutionary, a technology that allows smaller nations to challenge traditional military hierarchies. Others view it as evolutionary, simply the latest iteration in an ancient arms race between projectile and protection. The Thai military's recent development of its own Kamikaze drone reflects this broader trend toward democratization of advanced weapons technology. National security cannot be bought with money, declared Thai Air Force officials. It must be created with our own hands. Yet questions remain about the broader implications. If any nation can now produce weapons capable of precision strikes across vast distances, what happens to traditional concepts of military deterrence? How do defense systems adapt when threats can be mass-produced in civilian factories? The mathematics of modern conflict are shifting. A single expensive interceptor missile might cost more than 10 attacking drones. A sophisticated fighter aircraft represents millions of hours of human labor and decades of technological development. Resources that can be neutralized by a weapon costing less than a luxury automobile. The true test of these technologies came not in laboratory conditions or military exercises, but in the chaotic reality of active combat. Over the Black Sea and the cities of Ukraine, drones and counter-drones engaged in a deadly dance of evolution and adaptation. Each successful attack prompted defensive innovations. Each defensive breakthrough triggered new offensive capabilities. The cycle accelerated with each passing month, compressed by the urgency of survival and the relentless pressure of technological competition. Russian forces discovered that their most effective maritime strategy involved not just the drones themselves, but entire systems of reconnaissance satellites, communication relays, and human operators working in coordination across thousands of kilometers. Success required not just technological superiority, but organizational adaptation. Ukrainian defenders, meanwhile, learned to disperse their assets, to operate in smaller, more mobile units that could disappear before retaliatory strikes arrived. The sea became a chessboard where moves and counter-moves played out in real time, watched by satellites and analyzed by artificial intelligence systems on both sides. Today, the mechanical buzzing that awakened Kiev has spread far beyond Ukraine's borders. In military planning rooms from Bangkok to Tel Aviv, engineers study the lessons of these conflicts, adapting and improving their own versions of tomorrow's weapons. The age of the silent swarm has begun, not with dramatic declarations or treaty signings, but with the quiet hum of two-stroke engines and the invisible signals passing between Earth and space. These weapons represent more than technological advancement. They embody a fundamental shift in how power projects across distance and time. In workshops and laboratories around the world, the next generation of autonomous weapons takes shape. Each iteration smaller, smarter, more difficult to detect and defeat. The question is no longer whether this technology will transform warfare. It already has. The question is whether humanity can adapt its institutions and ethics as quickly as it adapts its weapons. The swarm is patient. The swarm is learning, and the swarm is just beginning.